ones from up in the mountains of Jamaica embraced the term. They didn't call them dreadlocks no more. They call them the natty dread. Right? Which became infused into the culture to tell you the capable spiritual influence that you can download, because your hair is like antenna. And by being in tune with yourself, in tune with nature, your antennas, the longer they are, the more data that they can receive and send to your brain. And all of our hair covers our scalp, which covers our skull, which covers what, Rich?
Brain.
Right. So now all this information is going straight to your head. And you remember what the song say? Don't let it go to your head, no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right, because they want to keep us ignorant. But when you go back, let's say, for instance, the at different times, by the way you grew your hair, you understood stuff differently, and you never equated it to your hair change until so many years later. In retrospect, you was able to identify the change in your understanding by the hairstyle you wore at the time.
There you go. Yeah.
Man, yeah, back when I rocked the Gumby, right? That's when I bumped into the guy up on 5th and 110th Street, and he gave me the science for the day, and I ain't been the same since. I went from the Gumby, I went to the low fade, to the no fade, back to the afro, to the natty light. You able to go through your growth by how you attended to your hair, even the women.
Damn, yeah.
You got women like, she right now, I can't be who I am. Let me dye my hair. Now she can now this is the way the girl look at it. Now I can let that bitch sit over there and simmer in her shit while I recover over here as this new person.
Right.
It's the chameleon clan. Those are cosmetic legacy of the chameleon clan, who understand to change the appearance of the person is to change the way the person see themselves in the world. And what you change it to determines which manner of character they will perform as, using the ego that they was given.
Y'all heard that? Did y'all hear that? Wow. Did y'all
Please don't ask me to repeat it. It sounds like a tongue twister.
Yeah, that was channeled straight through Rod. Rod is, Rod on his radio shit,
Yeah, but that's the science of the chameleon clan.
Yeah.
That's why they got the term chameleon anyway. That's their totem animal. Right. And they the ones who always changing their style up very frequently as they become aware of new information.
Right. Yeah. Wow. All right. So Rod, so I was reading the book, right? So, and we about to wind it down. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We got 3,000 people tuned in tonight. Shout out to Billy Carson and Terrence Howard was live tonight at 8. I didn't get a chance to see it because I was, getting ready for the show, but I like clicked on it and I heard Terrence mention about the Big Bang, and he was talking about certain things we was talking about tonight. And I'm like, damn, man. He mentioned ether because he mentioned Tesla or something like that. And I'm like, damn, man, we so connected and we don't know it, that we will literally do similar shows the same night, and I have no idea that. Yeah, what you said, Rod?
Spirit teams. Man. This is how you go to the Rucker. You ain't got nobody with you, but you got next on the court. You got your picker who you want to play with you now.
That's a good example. That was a good example.
Hey, ain't nobody passing up the next, but you only gonna pick the one gonna keep you on the court the longest.
Right. Wow. Wow.
That's also a tribal leadership training program. Ball games or open game sports. You pick your team, I pick my team. From out of the ones that's here, that was a training program.
We talking
then
about
they started turning it into a money-making scheme and turned it into professional sports. None of those things was originally professional sports. They was all stuff that we did tribally to keep certain lessons being practiced in the community. That's a leadership lesson. Because you ain't gonna pick nobody on your team that's not gonna keep you on court. They got to be able to ball, but guess who else got to be able to ball to even get next?
Wow. we Rod, the show that I just did with you, B-Dale, and RFG, we talked about sports and spirituality, and I was telling you about the whole point guard and all that. So it's interesting that you say that. Wow,
Yeah.
That is amazing, man. That is amazing. What I want to talk to you about, Rod, is in terms of the ether. The book talks about Divine Matrix, talks about, and I heard Bruce Lipton talk about this also, about how human emotions influence the DNA, could change the shape of the DNA. Bruce Lipton was one of the pioneers. It's called epigenetics, epigenetic programming.
Yeah.
Where you're because they say the environment influences the genetics, the DNA, but the thing that the environment that influences it is your perception. And the thing that influences from your perception is your emotional reaction. Your emotional reaction it goes back to your human emotion, right? So your human emotion influences your DNA. They did a test where your DNA influences the photon, influences photons. Photons is particles of light that matter is made of. So this matter is made of photons, particles of light. So your emotions influences the DNA that influences the matter. Now, in terms of ether's all in this thing. So talk to me about, they say that Greg Braden says that the language that this field, that many names, ether, quantum field, whatever you
same language as computers.
Yeah, so check this out. They say computers is ones and zeros.
Binary code.
But the ether understands the language of the emotions or the language of the heart. So the frequency. Frequency. So talk to me, because we're talking about manifestation and we don't understand how important emotions is in this equation to manifest or bringing certain things into this reality. And it seems to be everything, Rod. Talk to me.
How many times have you heard me tell you your emotions is your navigation system to where you're going in your life?
A lot. A whole lot.
And this is why. All that information you went on with Greg Braden, with the other guy, what's his name? Bruce Lipton.
Bruce Lipton, yeah.
Right. Now you got another guy named Thomas Campbell who came out with a book called My Big Toe, which means Theory of Everything.
I never read that. Okay. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a cold piece of work right there. It's gonna have you smiling through the whole book if you like to read. But anyway, the sciences coming in from 3 different prime sources. Remember, Greg Braden started off on a journey in the East to determine if any of that stuff that they teach in the Far East was real, using scientific methods to either prove or disprove it. End up proving so much of it, he got converted. Right? Then you got Bruce Lipton. He's studying epigenetics and how do the cells get information to the individual. How do you know what information to act on at a biochemical level from the cells? Well, the cells is getting the information projected from the outside through what's called the membrane. Membrane mean microbrain or little brain. Meaning a small piece of something. And it's the smallest part of the brain, membrane. Then you have what's called your neurobrain. But you still got 2 other brains that you have to deal with. And one is your heart brain, and the other one is your bottomless pit brain, which is your intestinal tract. Right? It's a bottomless pit because everything that go through it don't come back up unless it's bad news. Right? So they telling you the story, all of these systems working together. Okay, now, if you step back and take your emotions out of it and say, how do God look at this invention and what was he making? Right? He made an Earth navigation rover that would be controlled from externally by remote radio broadcasts. And he has to be tuned in to a certain dial on his genetics, which comes in through his crystalline DNA, which is made up of the amino acids, which is microcrystals. So now they're using crystals to transfer the information from the membrane, and they're using the mitochondrial to charge it all up, right? Which takes us back to the matrix. Because the part of the mitochondrial where the energy is produced is called the matrix.
Right.
But what do the word matrix mean? The word matrix means divine mother or great mother. So when we talking about being in the divine mother, the great mother, we talking about being in her dark matter, her seminal fluids, her amniotic fluid for us to gestate in while we being created in creation during the creation period.
Right.
So then you wonder, why is it that the ether permeates through me, right, and is all around me? Because you in mama amniotic sac, surviving off of her etheric fluid. She's feeding you through her mitochondria, charging up each one of your cells to tell your body to do what's in your DNA program. The crystals from the DNA is projecting back out to the membrane, which collectively come together and form a whole field called an auric field. And from the auric field, all of the information downloaded through the matrix into the DNA crystals projects to something called the neural network. And that's why earlier I wanted to point out that when you showed that picture, those were brain cells, just same as they is afro curls. Right? Because now we're talking about the mycelium network of the human body. Being able to draw information from all parts of the body at one time. But if you don't use your right brain, it doesn't work. Your right brain then can correct the information and fine tune it through a part of the brain called the interior gyrus, right? Which is tied to the silver cord of the great mother. Right? In the loves of the world are those things of gold that is tied to the heart through the great father. Right. And when you take your ascending energy and descending energy and you balance the two, right, then you become the point of focus for the two to balance. You are the crosshairs in the scope.
Hey, Rod, real quick, why is the cord of the great mother silver? Why is it silver? Why silver?
The energy, the lunar energy is silver. In when you see it astrally, it's silver energy. When you see the father connection to his children, even if he don't have a relation, it's always gold.
Right.
So they tell you about the silver key and the gold key. Astrology. Excuse me, need some drink.
Take your time, brother. Take your time. Shout out to everybody in chat. We got about 3,200 people in the chat. We going in. Beautiful conversation. Talking about the ether.
Astrology is when you're trying to develop the father mind, and it starts to cross over into astrology. Now you're starting to be introduced to the mother mind, because astrology and astronomy go together. Right? So the gold keys are to study astrology and astronomy, the stars. The silver keys is the reading of the tarot deck, which is oracle training tools for your right brain. The goal is to sync your left brain, father brain, with your right brain, so that you no longer in your wrong mind, but you in your whole mind. This is going back to being holistic in your approach. That's why you say don't take sides. They telling me Abraham's story. I wasn't there. I ain't never met this dude they calling Abraham. So how I'm gonna argue with somebody whether Abraham did something or didn't, because I'm quite sure that everything he did in his life is not in that one little old book. It does not tell us where he pooped at. Nowhere in there has ever told us where anybody pooped at except for King Saul when David cut his cloak. He shit in the cave. Other than that, there's nowhere where it's telling us how did they go about making a living. Which one of them was the Godfather and which of them was the Capadon. They don't tell us none of that. But we will argue you down that Jesus said something and they never want us seen it come out Jesus' mouth. We don't know what Jesus said. We know what they told us Jesus said, but we don't know what Jesus said. So the elders said, when you get past to that point, you stop reading it as words and stories and start reading what energy is this projecting. Why is it projecting my energy in this direction? And if it's directing my energy in this direction, why is it directing my energy away from that direction? Maybe I should look both ways before I cross this street. Right? Because somebody wants you to look at something a certain way. If they can't convince you to only see it how they see it, right, then you will only go along with what you won't go along with a program unless they can convince you that they program is better for you than your life purpose.
Man, wow.
Some people's life purpose align with the exploiter's ambition.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the control of that energy, that same ether energy, and how it's expressed in the world around us.
Rod, I told you I wanted to as we wind down. I think this might be the last question of the night. I told you that I was doing a documentary on the Black Sun. I want to ask you now, Rod, what is the connection between this ether energy and what we know as the Black Sun?
The Black Sun is really talking about the night sun, which was the moon of Saturn called Lilith. That's really what the Black Sun is. The Saturn energy is all to conceal the Lilith energy, which was the Dark Mother. The Dark Mother is always referenced in the ancient cults of the world. She's always talked about. In India, she's the Dark Mother Kali. And when you see her in the rage, that's the mother in her protective energy taking heads to protect her children. Right? When you see her in Kemet, she becomes Sekhmet when she's enraged. She's the Dark Mother. She takes on the protective nature of the cat. When you get another one in Egypt was the hippopotamus, Tawaret, the Great Mother, the Dark Mother, the primordial goddess of creation, fiercely protective of her children. But when you see her in the Temple of Dendera on the roof, you notice that she has what looks to be a meat cleaver in her right hand, right? So all of these is tracing you back to that same energy and that same frequency.
Indeed. No, indeed, definitely. All right, so family, so I think we're gonna I'm trying to think. I think we're gonna wrap that up for tonight. Let me get to one question from the chat. All right, let me get to this question. Shout out to Jordan sent the super chat. The one question I'm gonna get to is from Rod. I see somebody asked earlier in the super chat. Let me put Rod's Cash App up here. Hold up, yo. Give me a second. Rod Hayes up. Give me a second. No, that's the. Give me 1 second. Be patient, family. All right, let's put this up before we get to this last question. Let's put this on the where is. All right, if you want to support the brother Rod Hayes, for those who want to inquire, some of us remember it by now. The brother's been on the platform for about 2 years now. You can hit him up on the Cash App at $ SikApe. It's capital SIK, capital APE. All right. But the one question I want to get to, shout out to Jordan for sending a super chat. He wants to know, Rod, you said they mixed the third dimension as an infinity loop. How does this correlate to life already being infinite? And what can we all do about it? We'll end the show with that, Rod.
Okay, so the infinity loop is really it's to stick you in a state where you can't really see what you're doing because you're living in two dimensions simultaneously. Nature has to resolve that. So the resolution in nature, you are oscillating between dimensions, the same as when we talked about flux flow earlier, moving in and out of dimensions. When you sleep, you go live whole lifetimes sometime in one night. Sometimes people have 4 or 5 dreams that's over 12 hours long in the dream, but when you wake up, you only been asleep for a couple of hours. That's because you interdimensionally shifting and you fourth dimensional matrix as the dreamer, what we call the astral realm. The physical realm is the 3D where everything is believed to be solid, but when you get closer and closer with microscope, you find that nothing is connected. It's space between everything, even the most densest thing. The illusion of density comes in as the separation between things, right? So everything has what's called a physical form, and the physical form is the reflection of the astral form. In the current paradigm we in, there's no mythical beast of the world. Everything is humans and what we call base animals, right? But it was another era where we had unicorns, fairies, gnomes, trolls, and all that stuff. And a lot of those stories are legends, like the Skinwalker story is about the tribes that covered themselves in the skins of the local animal, in order to go to war in stealth against their enemy, right? So we wear wolves, but they suck blood, werewolves and vampires. Talking about the people of the land versus the people that came. Characteristic difference defining the separation in the two. So when they opened up in the Atlantean era, at the end of Atlantis, what caused the collapse was they opened up a portal. The portal was between the third and the fourth dimension. In order to create a barrier, they blew a collider similar